For this demonstration, I'm going to be using the Orchid Stamp along with coordinating Stencil. So I'm going to be working on craft cardstock and doing my stamping first. And the orchid comes in two parts. So the stem is separate to the flowers there. So you can actually build this up in different shapes. You could actually create a wreath, a circle, a border, a frame if you wanted to just from the flowers. Or you can of course add the stem on as well to make it into a bunch of orchids or a plant. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to be heat embossing. So I have some embossing ink here. I'm just going to press that all over the clear stamp. I've also got my white embossing powder and I've got my heat gun ready. I have run my heat gun for a moment or two just to make sure that that's already warmed up. Now I've got a piece of cardstock already cut to size to mat and layer onto a DL card, and I'm going to curve my orchid round that way, like so. Press that down onto my cardstock. Now this is a clear ink, so you won't be able to see very much, but I'm just going to heat emboss this. Sprinkle the powder on, then I'm going to tap off the excess into a card base because the score line is perfect for pouring it back into the tub. I can then add the stem here. And add the powder to that section too. Now I've got my image stamped and heat embossed. That has cooled down really quickly. I can now stencil some colour into that. So looking carefully at your stencil, you'll notice that the stencil will fit perfectly over the image, like so. And I'm going to come in with a pale colour first of all. So I'm going to use a pale lilac colour and a foam applicator. And go over the whole image. Now the embossing will resist the ink. With that pale background, I can now take another section of the stencil, and that's these unusual shapes here, but as a group they actually fit perfectly over parts of the flower that you can add some shading to. So just position it onto your flowers, just making sure that you've got that in line. Again, if you want to, you can tack this down just to keep it in place a little bit. Do that at the top and bottom, and then take a darker shade. So I'm now going for a darker purple, and I'm going to do the same as I just did through the stencil over the top of the first layer that I've just put down. And there we have two-tone flowers. So now we have two-tone flowers, and we also have the option of going in with a third colour. Now this one can be even darker, or you could go with a brighter colour like a yellow or an orange. So I've chosen to go for a yellow there. To finish this card off, I'm just going to choose the thinking of you sentiment and emboss that in white as well. This sentiment comes in with the orchid stamps. I'm going to place this going vertically up the edge of my card. Put the cards onto some cardstock or paper on my surface, sprinkle on the white embossing powder, and where we have some patches here, we can just use a finger or a small brush just to neaten those up before heat setting it. Now to finish this card off, I'm going to take my base and a matte and layer and just layer these up. I've already cut these to size and I've got foam tape on the back. So I've chosen, for the mats and layers, I have chosen a lilac that will echo the colour of the flowers, just to make everything harmonious. There we go. So now we have our dimensional, stamped and stenciled orchid and our beautiful thinking of you sentiment.